Good evening. It's Friday evening. It's Real, Random and Raw. I'm Phil Oldershaw with my wonderful host, James Forrester of Barrows and Forrester. Evening, James.
Evening, Phil. How are you?
I'm good. Here we are again. Another week through already. Can you believe how quick that week went?
I think it's gone very fast. We had a lot of good comments after last week's show, but it's amazing actually how fast this week's gone completely. It's that fast that look at me tonight. I've actually got coffee.
Oh, poor you with a dog on as well.
That's because you know how random and raw this is. So I've been doing a few Zoom calls, and I'm one of these people. I'm like, you shouldn't have a dog in your background when you're doing meetings and stuff. And this is a bit of fun, so I don't mind. But my dog, being male, he's either scratching the door or he's on the sofa licking his bits, and I'm sat there and I can see it. It puts me off, so I've had to kick him out tonight and say,
at least he's only licking his own bits, and nobody else is on your sofa. Well, look, we're back again. We've got a great guest this evening. But before we bring on this evening's guest, obviously we've had the budget this week, James. And we're talking all things property. You're the property man for people to know. How's it worked out? What do you think of Rishi's announcements in the budget regards to property?
I think, well, in property and in general, I think it was a pretty decent budget. I think it was less worse than what we were expecting it to be. I think definite winners is the property and the construction side, without a shadow of a doubt. But we are one of the largest industries in the UK to keep things moving. So look, for homeowners, for selling property buyers, amazing. Stamp duty, it was a bit of a leak. We all knew it was going to be extended till the end of June. Any purchase up to $500,000, zero stamp duty. What we weren't expecting was the extension till the end of September for where it'll drop to no stamp duty up to the first £250,000.
Yes.
So, well done, Rishi, for that one. And I think the
surprise whammy, that, wasn't it?
Yeah, look, and I think for first-time buyers, property agents, everyone, that's really good news. It helps the economy keep moving on. From the 1st of October, it drops back down to normal levels, but that was really good. Look, we've got 95% mortgages now going to be, coming through. Great for first-time buyers again. Devil will be in the detail. It's starting to filter through a little bit now, bit by bit. But look, I think it was great. I think, look, we're expecting to get taxed more, but it's got kicked down the line. It's not going to happen immediately. So we know it's coming, but at least then we can invest and we're in there, and we can get the economy moving again more and more. But what's even more exciting, we can book restaurants now as well. So that's even great. Most restaurants have their online bookings. So the countdown certainly is on.
Yeah, a lot of restaurants have got full books and things, which is really good to see for like the first few weekends, which is fantastic. But what I'll say to everybody and anybody watching right now is book anyway. Don't think that they're full. Just try your favourite place and then work your way down the line. If your favourite place is full at that moment, book them for another time and then book somewhere else, because, hospitality will need all the support that it can, but also they can't wait to look after you. And they're going to be out there making sure that service and food is incredible. It's an exciting time to go back to hospitality. Let's just hope many more of our friends in hospitality get to see it and fully experience that new pick-me-up as such.
Pick me up, yeah, definitely. Well, I think the big thing is if you're going to book, still turn up to the place. Don't book and don't go, because they need our support. But, look, our friends who were on a few weeks ago, Craft, really well, bookings, everything. They've just put on their Sunday sesh for the bank holidays. I'm booked on for that. Absolutely amazing. Right. I think they sold out in 90 minutes for their first Sunday sesh. 90 minutes, absolutely amazing. So, I think some great times, and hopefully we're ready to come back to normal at some point.
Fantastic. Well, look, you and I can talk all night, but it's not about you. It's not about me. It's all about our next guest. Following in the footsteps of Ninder last week, who I could have spoken to for hours and hours. Such an interesting man.
We need to go on his private jet with all the royalties that he's still earning and do the next
week. We wanted to know last week, didn't we? We wanted to know. We asked one of those questions. Okay, look, it's great to have with us this evening for Real, Random and Raw. This lady is a personal friend of mine. She's very well connected in the city. She's got a great business head, but also an incredible fun personality. And it gives us great pleasure to welcome this evening founder of the Education Awards founder of Education Expo, and also radio presenter, the lovely Jazz Rahal. Woo!
Hey.
Welcome, Jazz.
Hello. Well, thank you so much. What
Great to have you. Great to have you here.
Oh, great to be here. Well, it's virtually anyway, sitting here at home. Haven't left yet.
It all looks very golden there. It's like a feeling of elegance all around you.
I know it is, isn't it? It's the lighting now, I think, that's made it look like this. But yeah, I won't give too much away. The room is a bit of a tip.
Oh, well, we don't need to see around the room. Or maybe that's something we should start to do in the future, James. You've turned your camera around and we can see the other way now. If you look out that window, Jazz, what's out there?
It's just the front drive.
The front drive.
Nothing exciting. But I'm actually sat in my son's playroom, and I was talking to James actually before we came on, and I said I sit here and have my Zoom calls, and I'm sat looking at Lego and all these things. I'm like counting it all up, going, God, £20, £30, £40, £50. Why did I spend so much money on bits?
That's where your money's gone.
Exactly. It's awful. Anyhow, thank you.
Look, it's lovely to have you here, joining James and I for Real Random and Raw. How are you finding lockdown?
Oh, do you know what? It's become the new normal, if I can say that. I've got so used to it. But right at the very beginning, when it first, well, it's almost coming up to a year now, isn't it? It was a bit weird because it was just like, you're not normally home. And James, as you said, as you mentioned about the properties and stuff, the one most expensive thing I've ever bought in my life was my house. And I never, ever had time to sit in it and enjoy it. So all of a sudden with the lockdown, I found myself in this position where I was sat at home thinking, oh my gosh, I'm finally getting, it was a bit of a, oh, this is a bit of a novelty. I quite enjoy it. But I spent the first couple of weeks in lockdown in March as if I was away on an all-inclusive holiday.
Yes.
Probably along with a lot of people. I was, come midday. It was really hot as well, wasn't it? It was really warm.
Gorgeous.
I was sat outside. I was enjoying my house for the first time ever, because normally, you know what it's like when you're running a business and you're out and about, you're hardly ever home. So,
people that go to Australia, when they go there, they reckon in the first month they put on what they call the Sydney Stone. And you can see where I'm going with that. They put the weight on in indulge and things. We done that in 6 weeks of lockdown. We were getting through, between two of us, about 15 bottles of wine a week. And I was cooking morning, noon and night. And I could just see my cheeks getting bigger and bigger like a cartoon character.
It's literally, I've reached that point now where I'm just like, please let me out of here. I need to get back to work. I need some normality, the old normal. Because I don't ever think this new normal will be the same as before. Let's face it.
I think you've just given us a new TV show. So rather than I'm a celebrity, get me out of here, it's I'm a parent, get me out of here, and you can see it in the house, get them all out.
Look, listen, it'd be hard not to mention homeschooling, being a parent, staying at home, working in education. How can I not say that? I mean, my background, I was a lecturer, so you'd think I'd fall into educating my child very well. But actually, we're the worst, And I just remember, I just kept thinking, please, just open up the schools, let them go back. However, I did have a lot of people contacting me, especially at the radio as well, saying, help us with homeschooling, please, let's do something. And it was constant shows and workshops and everything else, you name it, was going on about homeschooling.
Yes.
And it was a lot of parents stressing out. And I to be honest, I reached the point where I just said, look, stop stressing. Nothing will happen. Enjoy it. Enjoy that time with your children. Teach them skills, life skills that you won't normally have time to teach them. Make a bed, but make it properly. Go clean the bathroom. Do this. Learn to cook. But enjoy that time together and do that and stop stressing about it.
Life skills.
Yeah, it's important.
I see we've got the lovely Jimmy Shabir on tonight. Hi, Jimmy. Good evening to you. Welcome. Who I say we've got him here. He's always here supporting and helping behind the scenes. So I know he was on the first two shows with us, but great to have Jimmy here as well. Now, talking of homeschooling and talking about work drying up, Jazz, for everybody watching that may not have had the pleasure of meeting you, yet. Just tell them what it is that you do and why you do it.
Okay, so I am the CEO and founder of the Education Awards. I started the business actually about 4.5 years ago, and the reason why I set the business up is my background was in education, and I just felt people in education were doing amazing work, phenomenal work, and it was just going unnoticed.
Yes.
We're very quick as a nation, as humans, we're very quick to point the finger at anyone in the public sector. Yeah, when things are not going right. Oh, you didn't do great. You know, that school's not brilliant because I had the worst experience, or I heard something, and that's not right at all. And I saw a lot of people in the role that I was doing. I was a lecturer at the time, leaving, absolutely fantastic teachers leaving because they just didn't feel appreciated enough. And that's not the case for everyone, just for the record.
Yes.
It was my experience. And then also as well, we were doing amazing things. So lots of people were doing amazing things above and beyond. And it just all went unnoticed. And when I started doing a bit of research, talking to people, finding out what's going on, why are you leaving? Because you've trained to be a teacher, you've been working in the profession for 10 to 15 years. Why then, with somebody with so much experience, are you wanting to leave? And it was because the fact that they just weren't appreciated in the role. They weren't told that they're doing a great job all the time.
Yeah.
And it's not, I wouldn't say that it was constantly. It was just most of the time, there's no time. You know, and people, the work that goes on within education, it's beyond belief. You know, you need to have worked in education to realize the amount of effort people put in. You know, it's not as easy as, oh, you're just putting a lesson on, it's okay. You know, to plan that lesson, to make sure it adheres to all the curriculum and all the points are coming out. I'm not going to get too technical because it's gone past 5:30, but I just felt that there was a need for the Education Awards. And at that time, there was a real increase in the event industry of awards. There were so many awards out. And, you know, my role at that point was to kind of go out and network quite a lot and bring a lot of business into the college that I was working at. And I really felt that there was a need for the Education Awards. There was a gap in the market for it. So I took redundancy from work, took a massive risk, and I set this business up.
Wow.
And I guess the first year in business, now my background isn't in business. I came from industry into education. And then all of a sudden I jumped back out and thought, right, I know I'm going to put two things together. I'm going to connect business and I'm going to connect education together because those are two of my passions. That's just what I love, honestly. It's all very well teaching people the curriculum, but if you cannot give them anything to apply it to, and that's when a business link comes in.
Yes.
That is. So for me, it was really important, and I wanted to connect the two together, and that's what I did with the Education Awards. And we were rewarding the amazing teachers. You know, we had so many people. That 16 categories. There's 16 categories in total. Each category is sponsored by a business. Then we actually encourage the business to work with the winners. So what we're doing is, in effect, is embedding 16 projects directly back into education. So that's how it all came about. But, you know, if anybody told me many years ago, before I even was teaching, that you would ever be teaching or you'd be a lecturer, I would have told them what to do. Because that was not me. It was a bit like my Marmite. No, I don't like it. And it's a shame because I never tried it. But once I fell into it, I thought, this is amazing. I absolutely love it because it's all about the impact and the change. And I absolutely adored it.
I love that. And the fact that you took that risk, and it is a risk. And interestingly, you know, one of the reasons why we wanted you on this Friday, and we have another guest next Friday, is we wanted to sandwich Inspirational Women's Day, which actually takes place this forthcoming Monday. And you are one of those inspirational women, not only for what you've done to go out and stand on your own and take that risk, but what you've done to help others as well within the education sector, and also commercially, what you do with the awards, and we'll talk about those further. But as I was about to say that, firstly, I said to you, being very professional that you are, I said, we have it as a bit of a wind down Friday. Get yourself a drink. And you went, really? A drink? So did you get your drink?
Yeah, I got two.
Oh,
love it.
Water and a glass of Prosecco.
Oh, listen, you're every licensee's dream. Drink responsibly with a glass of water. Good health. James, good health.
Thank you. Cheers to you.
So it's interesting, isn't it? Because, like you mentioned there, that, you know, when a lot of people will look at the educational world at the moment and they'll just think, well, God, how difficult can it be? You know, obviously teach a load of kids in the class, but I think a lot of them don't realize the planning that, you know, teachers have to put into lessons these days, because school's a very different place now from when I went to school, where, you know, it was very much if the teacher spoke, you shut up and you listened and you did as you were told. Where a lot of kids now have, you know, have an attitude to come back and ask why and, you know, and all this lot. But the difference is they've got to be more engaged. So are you finding then that you were seeing a big difference now, you know, about, you know, that you've really got to be in love with the job. You can't just be in that job just for money or holidays. And in a way, you've got to be a bit of a kid yourself to sort of understand, especially in, say, in primary and maybe early parts of secondary, to understand what they're going through to relate to them as well.
Yeah, I mean, the world is a very different place now. You know, it's very different in this, and there's so much more that happens within the teaching profession within the classroom. I mean, it's easy, and I was that person. I put my hand up to it. I was that person who thought, oh gosh, yeah, I'll teach, and this is my story. I'll go into teaching and it'll be amazing. You know, I will start my job at 9 in the morning. I'll finish at 3. I'll have all the holidays off. This would be the perfect job to have when I've got a little small family. And when I first started, it was a bit of a, whoa, my eyes just opened up, bit of a train crash, because my eyes opened up and I thought, what do you mean planning? What do you mean? And there was so much as you learn, as you go along, and you just think, oh my goodness me. So you have to plan, you have to lesson plan, you have to do so much more. And then you could in between it all have an Ofsted just pop up and stand, you know, say we're going to come in and look at your lessons, and that puts you on the spot. And there's lots of things. I mean, I remember in FE when I worked there, I went in one day, things changed very quickly. We were delivering one course, which is an AQA certificate, and I remember it just got pulled, and it was, right, you've got a week to turn this around and bring everybody up to date. It's a brand new course, you have to bring them up to date. And what do? You've just been teaching 30 learners for however long,
yes,
a certain course, and now it's changed, and it's your job to make sure you do it. Now you can sit and moan about it, but we haven't got time in education to do anything like that. You just have to get on and do it. So there's lots of new things that come into play. And now with lockdown, schools reopening, they look very different. They're not the same. There's so much more that's going to be taking place. And as much as parents or anybody really is thinking, oh, just open the schools and let them back in, what are you doing? It's not as simple as that. There's so many measures that go into place and so many things that go on behind the scenes that we do not know about.
Yeah, I always think about like marking books and those sort of things. And I remember saying to a teacher, you have it so easy because you just come in for those short hours. You get 6 weeks off here, 2 weeks off there, 2 weeks off somewhere else. Then you get Christmas. And she was like, no, that's not. We have to go home. Who do you think marks your work of a night? How do you think you get your 5 out of 10s? No, I joke. 9 out of 10s, etc. She says we're always all planning lessons.
Phil, and what happens, you know, when for the older learners, what happens is when they don't get the marks that they wanted and they have to resubmit the work, you still have to find the time to set them,
deal with them as well. Yes.
And then for them to resubmit it to you, and then in your own time you have to remark it. You don't get extra time to do that. It's all within the same time.
It must be very interesting these days as well with like everybody's got mobile phones. Kids have got laptops, iPads, mobile phones, etc. Which is just mad, because you can imagine trying to teach something and they already know the answers. They're Googling it whilst you're sat there. Wow. James has just messaged me. He's lost sound somehow. I think you might need to refresh. Oh, I'm saying it to him, but you probably can't hear. You might need to refresh, James, and log out and get back in again. Can everybody else hear us okay? For the people that are tuned in right now, I see Joni Hooton. Teachers work incredibly hard. Can you all hear okay, everybody? Just feel free to drop a comment in saying that you can hear okay. It might just be a connection issue for our friend James there. While we're just waiting for James to connect back in, we'll go on events industry, Jazz. So obviously you created the education awards. It's part of the events industry. Yes, everybody hears us fine. That's good. Thank you, Joni. Yeah, so you created the education awards. Now, as you say, you didn't have any business experience. So you suddenly threw yourself into creating this mass event of, I forget how many were there, 450, 500 people there at that beautiful hotel. You've done it for 2 years. Should have been the third one last year. What was it like to throw yourself into such a big event? And how did you find yourself being able to get through it? Was it teamwork? Was it bringing on the right people to work with, partnerships, husband? You know, what sort of things helped with creating that event?
I mean, if I tell you about my first year in business, I did everything wrong. Okay, I had an idea, and that's all it was. I had an idea, I had a dream. This is what I wanted to do. I wanted to set a business up in the event industry. And I remember I was actually at another award ceremony, and I had the website set up. I had everything going on, and I remember meeting my first sponsor, and literally, I remember he literally said, "Yeah, we'll be your headline sponsor," and that was the first time that I was in business, and that was BCU Julian Beer. I owe that man a lot because he believed in everything that I said to him. Within 15 minutes of talking to him, he was just like, "Yes, we're in." And I couldn't believe it when I sat back down thinking, am I actually in business? And you're just slowly sitting back down thinking, oh my God, okay, now I've got to put this event on. And I did things backwards. I'd set a date and just literally was like, right, let's run towards it and do it. And I thought, right, I need this, I need that. And a lot of people, and this is, I suppose, where your network comes into play, you know, people within your network who are already maybe running events or who are in certain professions, they helped out. And I think I was very lucky enough that all these people were working incredibly hard, trying to kind of advise me and make sure that I did things correctly. But there was this huge panic on in my head and nobody could see it. And at the same time, you know, you try to be this polished person trying to go out and go, yes, I'm the CEO of Education Awards. When the reality was, I was literally just trying to keep above water and go, oh my gosh, I can't let anybody know I'm having a heart attack on top of a heart attack here.
But they actually, you saying above water, they call that the swan theory. You're gliding on top of the water like it's cool, calm and collected, and underneath you're paddling like mad.
And that was me. And I remember the first awards when that took place. You know, I had my family literally following me, but they weren't too sure. What on earth is she doing? Why she left? And a really good job. And now suddenly she wants to do this event. And yes. I suppose when you say events to many people, especially my own family, my parents, you know, they just think events is in a birthday party, a wedding. And I remember my dad kind of saying, but why do you want to do it? You've got a really good job. You had a good job. Why are you doing this? And I suppose it's a cultural thing that comes into play also as well. You know, come on, really? Do you really want to rock the boat here? And I remember when I got to my first year's awards on that night, I remember my parents, my husband, they were there and everybody was there. They were just literally like, oh my God.
Yes.
Is this what you genuinely were talking about? Because it was on another level to what they were expecting. And me all the time, I was like, and I don't know about yourselves, but I self-critique myself quite a lot. You know, oh, that wasn't right. This isn't right.
Yeah.
And nobody could tell that all these little things that they didn't go well unless you were part of that team, so to speak, and you would know. And all I remember is, right, yeah. And my mum and dad were just like, this is amazing. And my husband was just like in shock saying, I wasn't expecting this. And I was just like, yeah, you're right. I wasn't so much expecting this because I expected it to be on a bigger level. And they were just like, what? This was really good. So, you know, it's that whole thing of, you know, you try to balance it out and you try, and I suppose you have to make mistakes.
Is that you, James? Have we heard an echo there? James is back.
I am back. It shows you how random this is. I literally lost sound for 10 minutes, so I could see you and see all your mouths going, and I literally couldn't hear a word, but I knew that everything was going well because I could hear it through my phone, so apologies for that.
I think my mum has wished that on me for years. Just see my mouth moving, but not hear a thing.
It's not just your mum.
Bum bum.
Oh no, but yeah. So there you go. That was my first year in business. But you absolutely learn a lot. And then the second year, I planned.
Yeah, I was going to say, what are some of the key things that you felt like you learned? If you had to do like a top 5 or top 3, what are the things that stand out for you in that quick learning space?
Well, do you know what? Reach out and ask for help. That's really important.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, you know, sort of just, you can't. I'm a one woman band.
Change the whole phrase. It's
well, that's a good one, isn't it? Because obviously women are very strong in business, and it's interesting because that saying's always been "I'm a one-man band." So what actually is it? I'm a one-woman band, or do we need to create a new phrase now for it as well?
Yeah.
You could just say I'm Beyonce.
Well, look, I'm a one-woman band. There you go. Hashtag that. I am my event. I'm my event planner. I am my finance person. I am my admin. I am my table planner. I am my everything. So literally, you get hold of me. It might be with a lot of different accents, but you get hold of me.
Yeah.
And it was very difficult. And I guess you really end up sometimes in imposter syndrome, where you kind of trying to play all these roles and you forget who you really are. So I guess the other thing I learned was that you have to just learn to just pass on work to people and say, look, I'm not good at this. This is not my forte. I can't design. You be my designer, whether it be you're my freelancer, whatever it may be. You do that. But to be honest, that was the third thing, to be really honest to yourself and honest to people that, you know, especially your own family, actually, I'm struggling or I'm stressing out here. I need your help. Because it's all very well to kind of, to the outside world, go, yeah, everything's brilliant. I'm not worried about a single thing. And then come home and go, yes, that's great. And it's that imposter syndrome. You want to make out like everything's going great. But the reality of it is, you know, you need to be honest and true to yourself and say, sometimes it's not going great. I'm stressing because business was never my forte, but I've learned it. And I'm still
It's interesting you mentioned imposter syndrome, actually, Jazz, because there's so many people that work in business, and you meet a lot in hospitality that have become managers of restaurants and things or pubs, and they're all like, I feel like I'm winging it every day because they've worked their way up the ladder, and then all of a sudden they've got to the top, but they're like, sometimes I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't even know if I know what I'm doing. And I think that's the thing.
But you learn to find out. So you say to yourself, I'll learn it, I'll figure it out, I'll find out. And that's how you learn. So education is important at every aspect, no matter what you do. You know, you are constantly learning. I'm constantly reading books, trying to now help myself become a better version of me. Yeah. And one thing I do say to a lot of people, especially in business, is that don't forget your why. Or whatever the purpose is. It could be really personal to you, but don't forget the reason why you actually started it, because that's really easy to forget.
Oh, did you say the why? I thought you said don't forget the wine. I was like, well, that will help.
Only you. Only you.
Don't forget the why. Good question. Yeah.
Purpose for why it is you're getting up every morning and you're doing it. And I guess I'm really lucky because I do consider myself lucky because I was able to set something up and see that vision through. It doesn't feel like I'm going to work every day, which is just great. You know, I love what I do so much. And my why, the reason why I'm doing it, is I really want to make a change, a bit of an impact in education. And I know I can't do that by myself, which is why I speak a lot of the time to people and say, right, come on, help me on my mission. You know, let's help the youngsters coming out of this pandemic, for example. You know, careers, for example, the job market, nothing's going to be the same. It's had such an impact, education has, this whole year out of education.
Yes.
If we were to follow them, whether they be the transition, the 2020, you know, the class of 2020, as I put it, the ones that were transitioning from year 6 to 7, so they're going from primary school to secondary school, from secondary school to college, from college to university. If you followed them, you know, will they be the ones that are always going to be lagging behind?
It's interesting actually, because I read an article and it said teachers have had it easy for the last year. And then I read it and I thought, hang on, teachers have had it easy for the last year. Firstly, they've had to, like restaurants and everybody else, adapt. Even though restaurants closed, they've still been juggling and working behind the background. But teachers have still had to adapt and then do homeschooling or schooling online. But then for those that have got kids as well, not only have they been teaching lessons online, but they've also been homeschooling. So you've got two different things going on, which is just incredible. And what you did by creating a connection, it almost reminds me of like the old YTS schemes back in the day when I was at school. But you've actually
yes.
yeah, back in the day, you've created that connection of being able to put people in touch with businesses and to make projects, real life projects with real businesses. And I think that has just got so much value in it. And I see more people starting to look to broaden that out now. So I think what you set out to do and what you've achieved, you've ticked the box. Do you reward yourself enough for what you've achieved is probably the question there.
Oh gosh, do I reward myself for what? Probably the best answer to that at the moment is no. You know, it's a difficult one. My reward is actually I'm on that. I'm working on my mission. I feel like I've still got a very long way to go. I feel that the pandemic has kind of slowed things down a little bit. However, if you look at the positives in education at the moment, in terms of what I'm trying to do, it's probably just sped it up a bit as well. Because now when you look at it, businesses want to get more involved with education, and I do talk to a lot of businesses quite regularly on Talk Education, and they say we want to get more involved, we want to do more with education. The problem is sometimes they just don't know how to connect. They don't know who to go to, and I guess a lot of businesses always think schools, colleges, they just come knocking on our door because it's only because of work experience, but that's not the case. They need that connection because they're part of that community. Every business in wherever there's a school, wherever there's a university is affected. So it's important for them to get together and work as communities, because that school, college, university, it has an impact in that area. You know, you're educating everybody, but also as well, you want to bring those links directly in and teach them why. You know, that's their why. How can you apply what we're teaching you to what we need for a skill set of tomorrow?
I love it, and it has that knock-on effect. Look, we'll come on to Talk Education and the expo which you've created as well. But let's just I just want to touch on a couple of things that's in the news right now. A couple of subjects to get you both going here. First one is obviously COVID. We're moving in the right direction. The vaccines are rolling out. It's all over the news. I know they have now talked about a new Brazilian version. And I'm wondering do you think that version makes all your pubic hair fall out? I'm not really sure. Why have they called it a Brazilian? But no, when you get a chance to travel, where do you want to go? Like we're talking about
Brazil,
planes, Brazil.
Do you know what? You know, on a serious point, I love traveling. I just honestly want to go and sit on an airplane and go somewhere lovely. However, having said that, coming out of this pandemic, the first thing I want to do is to go see my family.
Yeah.
Hug. It is to see my friends, to see the network that we're a part of, and stay safe. Look, holidays are great. Who doesn't want to go and find me somebody who hates holidays? You know, I think we might find a few, but not that many. But they're great. But I think the first and foremost, we need to get out of this. We need to get out of lockdown. We need to get out of this. You know, this pandemic really does need to be over with, but in a safe way. And then we can think about traveling and going wherever. But, you know, if my dream destination, Maldives, before they all disappear.
We can tell you're a very humble person, because when Phil asked this question a few weeks back and it was an all-male audience, everyone was like, the pub.
On there, I'd like to go there too. So, you know.
All right, mine for wine. We'll meet somewhere for wine, definitely. It's long overdue, isn't it?
I've got a little random question, Phil. As you know me, I sit here and I like to ponder, and now and again I pop up with something where you'll cringe and go, my God, the guest's going to leave, or whatever I ask. So I've got one for the awards, actually, because it's very interesting. Obviously, I went to the awards in 2019, which should have been the last one, really, wasn't it, that the proper awards was on. It's interesting when you sit there, because I am a governor of a school, and I thought great recognition for people being, you know, I think it's a forgotten, it's one of those industries that we demand a lot from it, we expect a lot from it, but we can be quite critical until now, when we've all realised we are not teachers and we can't homeschool and we need them all to go back. A minute. Well, that's a different story. I'll get onto that later because I know that'll be a question. At 9:01 next week, I can see half the parents popping champagne next week. As the kids obviously roll back into school and stuff. But obviously, when you're doing your awards, and you're naturally going to approach schools and everything like this because there is a lot of people that turn up to the awards. There's award winners, there's guests, there's companies, there's sponsors, etc. What would you say to the schools or colleges that sit there and just say it's just a way of getting money out of us for a drink up?
Well, I've never had anybody say that. Look, people nominate themselves for the awards, for any awards out there, actually, for all the awards. It's not just education awards. When you put a nomination through, it's a platform that you're applying onto, okay? You're trying to get recognised for some amazing work that you're doing. Now, if you get shortlisted and you're lucky enough to get shortlisted, and let's say you don't win on the night, you're still a winner for getting shortlisted. If you think of it that way, but also as well, you have been recognised. And so the reality of it is, somebody might turn around and go, "Oh, James Forrester School, never heard of that. I might have a little look at that." So it raises your profile more than anything else, and it makes you feel good. No matter what people say, "Oh no, I don't feel good about being shortlisted for these awards or whatever." It does make you feel good as a shortlister to say, "I've been shortlisted," and we should be really proud of that. There are a lot of people that go, "No, not me," but let's be honest about it. If you've entered yourself for some awards, you've entered it because you would like to win those awards, because you would like to get recognized for everything you do. And this isn't just for the education sector, this is for any awards per se. For all awards that are out there, you want to get recognized for them, and you should utilize it. It's a great marketing opportunity to showcase what you do to anybody. Just to even say you were shortlisted to people just literally won't forget it. They kind of go, "Oh, okay," and they'll register that.
Yes.
You can get emails from some companies and they say, "We were shortlisted for this award," or "We were a runner-up for whatever awards." They're not winners, but they're runner-ups. And they're
No, absolutely. And I think anyone who's been to one of your award ceremonies can see the genuine side of actually people being shortlisted and the winners that do go to it as well. The only feedback I would give on that award is you need to get a better presenter.
Yeah, we're working on that one. We're working on that.
For those who don't know, he's on the screen right now, and that's why I said it.
You bugger. I've got to say, do you know what? Hosting the Education Awards, I was going to say last year. It is so long ago, isn't it? 2019. Where has a year gone? Being invited to host the Education Awards was a real, truly inspiring experience for me because just like what we've been talking about, I was allowed some insight into the event. This is how I got to understand it more through Jazz. We developed our friendship and bond further, but also for me to understand what Jazz had created, how she'd created it, how it came about, how it was there to pedestal not only businesses and besides sponsors, the other businesses that get involved, and also the schools or universities that are also involved. Just ticked so many boxes and had such a huge ripple effect for the future. It was really exciting. And then the last guest speaker was Charlie Fogarty, MBE, as well. And just to hear his speech, to get involved, for him to come and do a guest speech there was truly inspiring. A man that had got over a lot and was there walking up on stage, delivering to a crowd of 500 people that were captivated. You could hear a pin drop as they listened to what he had to say. Was, an street West Midlands.
Can I say, Phil, because it's interesting you said that, because I remember being there, and it's because obviously you'll see it from the presenter point of view, and obviously then there's the host. It's different. As you're sat at the table, it's a different story. Yeah. And what was interesting is, look, as we know in these awards, and look, you know me, I'll always spout my mouth off. People are enjoying it tonight, and the alcohol flows, and as soon as it runs, but when that speech was going on, people stopped in their tracks, and if they were outside and they were coming in, they stopped and they gave the utmost respect to listen to what was said that night, which I've never seen for a while. I don't think I've actually seen that in an awards night, for many that I go to. I've not seen everyone just stop what they were doing, and they were so glued and had their full attention to what was being said.
It was interesting for me. Sorry, Jazz. It was interesting for me because you forget that there's people from education and things there, and you think, oh gosh, have they got the same sense of humour as everybody else? And you have to think about your jokes or your quips that you're going to say. But Jazz,
I feel most of them are alcoholics anyway, so I wouldn't worry about it.
Learned that. Jazz, when you get somebody like Charlie Fogarty involved, and obviously Andy Street, and there was lots of other people there as well. What's the reaction and what makes you get those involved? But what's their reaction to getting involved as well?
Charlie was amazing. I mean, I first met Charlie at the Pride of Birmingham Awards.
Yes.
I heard him speak, and I was just blown away. And how I look for speakers or anybody to get involved is I try to put myself in their shoes. If I'm I literally just, if I'm blown away by what they're saying and I think they're so inspiring and I feel like that story needs to be heard, I'll do whatever it takes to get that person there. And I remember I heard Charlie, I was just blown away by his story, and I just thought, you need to be my keynote speaker at my event, no matter what. And I kind of hovered around at the end of the event, and as you do, and you kind of go, where's he gone? Went, stalked him a little bit, then went and grabbed his dad, because he was there with his dad and his brother. Said, right, go get me Charlie. I need him to be my speaker at my event. And I told him about the awards, and next one thing led to another. He's actually got a manager, so I spoke to his manager because he does a lot of inspirational speaking. He is such an inspiring person. For those who don't know his story, please Google Charlie Fogarty. He's absolutely amazing, and he honestly will blow your mind away. He is an amazing person. In fact, you guys should get him on. Get him on there.
Oh, actually, we should do. Yeah, we should reach out to Charlie. He's so inspiring.
I'll connect you. You should.
Lovely.
And the reality is, with the awards, I'm very lucky because I get to hear all these amazing stories, these amazing things that all these individuals are doing, or collective groups of people are doing in education. Lifetime achievement winners that we have, and what they've done without even realizing how amazing they really are.
Yes.
Charlie's one of them. So in terms of keeping people like this on board, Charlie now is an ambassador for the awards, so he helps to promote the awards, but also as well, we get him to go to schools and speak to youngsters. So schools get in touch with me, and then they say, we need somebody to come in and inspire. And it's all about inspiration. It really is. And it's about raising the aspiration of youngsters, the youth of today, to inspire them to go, look, you can do anything. And Charlie's story really is one of those. Everything came to an end and he turned things around. Yeah. And the way he did that, it's so inspiring. And youngsters need that. Youngsters need to hear that it doesn't matter if you feel like your life is at the end or whatever, anything is possible, which is what his actual motto is. His hashtag is anything is possible. And
amazing. Yeah.
And I get inspired by everybody every year at my awards. I love it. They're my therapy, if you want to call it.
Lovely. And Andy Street was there as well. He jumped at the occasion. Who else? I'm trying to think who else was there, actually.
There was me. A lot of people.
Oh, yeah. You, me. There was a lot. You're right. There was a lot.
There was a lot of people there.
Yeah.
So look, moving forward, Harry and Meghan hit the news again. Now, I actually read on a friend's post last night, and it did actually make me think for a moment. Obviously, they wanted to be away from the media. They wanted this quieter life. And obviously, it's nothing to do with me. For me, I wish them the best of luck, and I want them to go and enjoy what they do as a happily married couple looking to make a family. But they are suddenly everywhere, all over the media. And whether the media is blowing it up out of proportion, or whether Meghan is literally stepping out and just on overtime. But somebody said to me, do you think all of this is a Pally spin to take the spin off Prince Andrew and the investigation that's still going on, reference Jeffrey Epstein, etc., to take the spin off the pressure for Prince Andrew? What's your thoughts? Do you really think it's about Meghan and Harry leaving the UK, or do you think there's more to it?
Who are you asking me.
Yeah, Jazz.
You'll ask me after you because you know what's coming.
Look, you know, Harry and Meghan, sorry, they've left now, right? They've left the UK. That's their decision. They wanted to leave. And the reasons for why they wanted to leave, they made it very clear. It was the media. They are part of a family that's so high profile and so well known.
Yes.
So anything they do, whether they sneeze, it's going to be in the newspaper. You know, it's going to be in the tabloid. It's going to be on media. They're a very high profile family. Now, you find me one family, honestly, you find me one family that hasn't got politics going on, hasn't got issues going on in it. They're just a normal family. It just so happens that they are royalty, or not in their case at the moment.
Yeah, that's debatable.
Yeah. It's up to them. I mean, it's like anything. It's up to you as an individual. If you want to go out and speak out more, you can do so. But everyone's going to have an opinion about it. You're not going to be everybody's cup of tea, no matter what you do. All right?
Do you think that Meghan is being bullied by the press? Because I've seen all sorts of things coming up over the last week about her being a bully in the palace. Just so many different stuff. The earrings has now come up as well, about wearing those earrings that were given by.
We're never going to know, are we? We're never really going to know the truth. And to be honest, I've heard it so much, and I've reached the point where I'm sure there's a lot more interesting things and more important things happening in this world, other than two people who have chosen to step away and just want to live a life of whatever they envision normality to be.
James.
Yes.
I could see you with a big smile. I was like, he's coming, it's building up.
So I think they're absolute hypocrites. You know where I stand on this? Because I agree, you know, the whole point they left was at the end of the day, bad news sells. That's what newspapers, online, you know, if we went, the world is doing amazing. Look at that, we'll lose people watching as soon as I come out. It's, bad, it's like if the world was great and everything was, no one would bother. We are, unfortunately, as human beings, we love to hear bad stories. It's interesting. I know that sounds horrible, but it is interesting. You know, like you've just said about Charlie's story, it's based off bad news previously and turned into a great thing. So it's interesting to hear the come through of what's actually happened within the life story. But with Harry and Meghan, they moved away to get away from the media. And look what they've done. They've gone onto Spotify to do a podcast. They've sold all to the biggest talk show host, which if she wants to come on, she can do. We might allow her. You know, the biggest talk show host in the world, Oprah. And it's, you know, you've got a battle of TV stations. They've sold it, I think, to 64, countries or something at the moment. This is going to be aired in. And I just think at the moment, the bullying and all, look, we can get all around that. But I just think absolute hypocrites because they want a private world, but they're doing all this. They bang on about environmental stuff and changing the world, but do it by flying on private jets everywhere. And then to top it off, and as used to are very esteemed radio presenters, I was on talk radio, 5-6 months back, because we're building apartments up in Newcastle. I was told, look, they want to go on, interview you all about Newcastle. It was actually about the football club takeover, about investment by the Saudis coming into Newcastle for your development. What will it mean to the city, yourself, and the wider community, and obviously the football club. And literally, I was all prepared. I had all my notes, as I'm sure you guys get told. I was all ready. And it turned into, are you happy? And the words were along the lines of being owned by a butchering murderer and accepting money from somebody like that. But then on the flip side, and I literally was on a defense, like defending the Saudis, like I know them personally. But then I'm looking for, well, Meghan sat there wearing earrings and no one's actually mentioning this really at the moment. They're scared to mention it. And I just think it's, is it right or wrong? I don't really care. But I just think the way they've gone about it is disgrace. I think Prince Andrew's disgraced the royal family. I think Harry is just like a rabbit in headlights. He's lost it. He's got the girl off the TV and doesn't want to upset anybody. But I think this will bite them. I really do think this is going to come back to bite them. And I did say it the other week, and I'm prepared to have a great wager on this. This will be the biggest divorce that will happen in the next 10 years.
Oh, but don't you think, that...
hang on, Phil. Since they're podcasters now, if they want to come on our show at Real Random and Raw,
we're happy
and have their say, then they're more than welcome.
Isn't the phrase today's headlines are tomorrow's chip papers? And in the world of social media, where everything changes, it's not even today anymore. It's by the hour, by the minute. Yeah. Then don't you think this will quickly be a washover? What do you think, Jazz?
Well, yeah, you're right. It will, but we'll be talking about something else tomorrow, and then they'll come back into it again because all they have to do is do something small, which is highlighted. James, I agree with you. Yes, when you say you don't want to be part of the media, you don't want to be hounded by the media, especially, or you don't want to even talk to them, but then you go off saying these are the reasons why I'm leaving, but then you go off to America and then you've signed a deal with Netflix, for example, to have a fly on the wall documentary about what you're doing. There's so much, and you kind of think, well, a bit hypocritical, but it's one of those. What can you do? I mean, I'm expecting a lot more from them.
We're talking about you're here today, not that it had to be International Women's Day on Monday. We would have still invited you anyway, but the timing is perfect, Jazz. And when you think about a businesswoman with a strategy, don't you just look at Meghan and think, she's got it going on, she's good looking, she's clever, she's skilled. Obviously, she already had a successful career in suits, etc. And don't you think she's just got a great strategy? She's found a guy that she's fallen in love with. Prince Harry is a handsome guy, just happens to be a prince at the same time. But she's got a business strategy. And actually, by coming away from the royal family, and they're still family, blood is still thicker than water. He's still got royal blood. But by doing their own thing, they can make a much more successful, self-controlled career than what they would have had within the royal household, where they're told where to be and what to do.
Well, to have a strategy to fall in love or whatever, I don't believe in that.
No, I believe that's natural. I do believe that's natural. Yes.
Yeah.
But the business strategy that's come after it.
We don't, like I said, we do not know really what's happened, what really was going on, and your emotions, everything. We don't know. Something could have been going on where they just think enough is enough. I've got to get out of it. It's not good for my well-being, which is the case for a lot of people, and they break away from relationships, or they break away from homes and think, oh,
Diana comes to mind.
100%. And don't forget, his mum went through so much, so he doesn't want that happening to her.
I love that. I think that answer just sums it up.
Can I show my support though? Look, like that.
I don't think you're allowed to show them pictures. Actually, this is like...
well, you can, because this is Real Random and Raw, and I break the rules.
This is like... I suddenly realised, what do we all have in common? If we hadn't shown that, it could have been, what do we all have in common? We've all had our picture taken for International Women's Day to be revealed on Monday.
Yes.
I can't wait to see yours, Jazz.
Oh, I can't wait to see yours.
I'm in my birthday suit.
Did you wear a nice dress?
Oh, you wait till you see the flowers. All right, look, I think we've milked Meghan and Harry, so to speak. So, Jazz, the Education Awards, you went self-employed, you developed a business, and then you decided to do talk radio, and then from talk radio, you decided to do the Education Expo event. Just talk us into those, talk radio, and then into...
Right, so Expo came first.
Oh, right, okay, yeah, okay, thank you.
So Expo is just another arm of the Education Awards company. The Expo just literally is under one roof. It takes place at Millennium Point. We invite as many businesses to take part. And we get as many educational establishments to be part of it also as well. And it's a whole day event where people can just showcase what they are all about. So it's about the people that attend are people who want to know about what their next steps possibly may be for education.
Yes.
So they talk to education establishments, or it could be businesses who want to connect with education. So it's a great way for them to come along and talk to them. But also as well, it's a lot of businesses there who offer apprenticeships and education programs and lots of other things. Talking about next steps, they are also there. So it's good for anyone and everyone to come along for the day and just literally at any time pop in and register to attend and just come in and talk to people and find out more about all of these things. And it's cool. If anything, actually, one of the biggest things that came out of this expo this time around, it was almost like a little networker in education with business. That doesn't normally happen. So that was quite nice, and it was quite encouraging to see businesses engaging with education under one roof and just doing business with each other, which was great. Talk education.
I was just going to say, I came down. You held that at Millennium Point. Really great event. Lots of amazing people. Not my area at all, but I still came down because I was interested, obviously, from being involved with your events. And it was fantastic, and actually in a very difficult time because it was the start of COVID as well, wasn't it?
COVID came in March. The first expo took place in January.
That's it.
So yeah, so it's been a bit of a strange year in business because the awards couldn't take place, the expo couldn't take place. So it's
yes,
strange. But I suppose my saving grace has really been the radio, Talk Education, and that's a show that goes out every Wednesday at 10 o'clock on Solihull Radio. And that is exactly what it says on the tin. It's Talk Education. So we talk for an hour long about anything to do with education. You can imagine during lockdown, some of them were about homeschooling. Some of them was about the great digital divide in education, the lack of IT, the lack of equipment some kids had. Will there be this division moving on? And we talk to so many different people. I constantly scour the net and look for people who are making comments about education. There was a head teacher who came out on LinkedIn and said, I do not want to go back and open my school up. I refuse to open my school. When he came on the show and he explained his reasons why.
Yes.
And that was really interesting to hear. His reasoning why he didn't want to put his staff at risk. He didn't want to put the community at risk. He didn't want to put his kids at risk.
Understandable.
He didn't feel the feedback from the government at the time was good enough for him to say, I will open that door and let everybody in. He didn't feel that, because it was a lot of mixed messages that were coming through. There weren't any direct messages coming down from government for education. And I guess it's still the case, because even now on Monday, schools are opening up. Schools have been told that they have to do lateral flow tests for kids. Again, how they do that, it's up to them, or what's put in. I think there's a bit more strategy that's gone into it this time round.
Yes.
And most schools are doing it a bit differently. So, it's not as easy. It's not as easy. And so we have so many different discussions on the show, which is brilliant. And I love talking, as you can tell.
Never noticed. What sort of guests have you had on, Jazz?
Sorry?
What sort of guests have you had on the show?
Oh, gosh. We've had lots of different guests. We've had motivational speakers on there. Gosh,
right.
We have panel discussions on there, because I do two shows. One is Talk Education and the other one is Talking Business. So again, my two passions. And Talking Business, we do a lot of panel discussions. This Tuesday coming up, there's one about the budget. So we're doing a panel discussion about the budget, talking about actually what it really means to businesses and whether it is as clear, or whether all the grant funding is okay and available for people. Are people actually getting it? So we're talking to a few businesses who possibly have or haven't had anything, and how they're getting on, and what the budget meant to them. So we discussed lots of different things in business. Most of it during lockdown was all about lockdown, and we were hearing about the stories of businesses, and what's really inspiring is how they diversified, how they look for opportunities also as well. And that's something that's really come out of this lockdown. We've actually found out that we can all diversify. We can find other ways. If we're all in that position where you're like, right, I'm suddenly, let's say, furloughed and I don't know what else to do, it's a time for you to upskill. Maybe you can start thinking about actually, I've always wanted to learn French, for example. I'll start learning French. I've got time to do that, or whatever it might be. If it's about, and it's weird, isn't it? When you're backed in a corner sometimes, and that's the time when you either pick that phone up and just ask for a job, or ask, how can I do this? So it's been a real interesting time, and it's great that I hear all these great stories from people and what they've actually ended up doing. It's so inspiring.
What do they call it? It's fight or flight, isn't it? You either find a way and you get on with it, or you leg it and you give up. You spoke about the budget. How was the budget? Listening to what Rishi said this week, and also what I really loved about the budget this week is he mentioned personally our West Midlands Mayor Andy Street, who I think has been doing a great job. But I think when you get mentioned in the budget personally by name, I think it means that you're certainly standing out for the work that you do here in Birmingham, or the Midlands in particular. How has the budget affected you? Do you think it will support you and the events industry?
Well, the event industry was one of the first industries to go, along with hospitality, and it was kind of one of the forgotten, and this is my opinion, the
Yes.
forgotten industry. And there was no grant funding specifically for the event industry as a whole. Me as a business, I was a new business, as in a small business, and I was one of those I'm a limited company. I was one of those directors that paid myself through a dividend.
Yes.
And by that, it means I personally never picked any money up from the business, because I was constantly putting it back in the business. And it's sod's law, isn't it, really? Because this was the year when COVID happened that I was actually going to expand. I was actually going to be having my awards in Manchester also as well, but they couldn't take place. And I was actually going to employ a full-time member of staff. So
Yes.
sod's law. So when it came to the first time when Rishi mentioned all of this stuff coming through, I was really happy, thinking, oh my God, he's going to look after us. We're going to get all of this stuff. There's nothing for me to worry about. The reality of it was, actually, because of the way that I set my limited company up, I wasn't able to draw down any of the grant funding. I just couldn't get anything at all. Now, it's been a difficult year. Sometimes I do question how I've actually got here so far. The way I look at things is, I set my business up from nothing, and I'll do it again. You know, I didn't give birth to this baby, so to speak, my awards, just to see it go down the pan. That's not going to happen. So the budget, when it was announced again this time round, the event industry hasn't really been mentioned again, that there's a specific grant as such for the event industry. However, what the government did do, and this is from the last one, the last lockdown that we've just had, they did introduce the additional restrictions grant, where they did say to councils that it's under their discretion how they offer that out. And I was able to get a discretionary grant, but only a small amount. It doesn't even hit the sides, but it's something less. Now, what as a limited director, and I'm going to be totally honest and say this, I've had a £4,000 corporation tax been given to me this year.
Yeah.
So if I wasn't paying my taxes, how do you not know then how much money I'm making for you to actually think that I'm a business that's not making any money?
True. And I agree, actually, because I fell into the same category as you, from working with a company up north and developing some businesses, to coming back, setting up my own self-employed business from the end of 2018, done the company return on it. But when it came to funding, I didn't fall into that. You had to have had your company for 3 years doing the return on. So there was 3 million of us that didn't fall into that bracket. So it sounded good on the news when they made the announcements at the start of furlough, but actually there's 3 million of us that couldn't pick up an absolute penny. So as you were saying that, I completely felt your pain, because I've shared that journey with you, along with 2,998,000 more.
Yeah, but 2,997,000.
The end ones, yeah.
Hang on a minute. So it's a bit. So there's another take on this one, because I totally agree with you guys on this. And as you know, me, I love business and finance and everything that goes finance and everything that goes along with it, and especially politics, which is one of my little hobbies. So it's interesting, because even as if you're one person with a limited company, you're not included, but also you have to feel for the people that are employing staff who have a business and they've built it up and have expanded, because they're also not included. And what they are told is that basically the rule came down is just take dividends out of your company to survive. But the first rule as a director and an owner of a company employing staff is to protect your staff and clients first.
Yes.
That is the first thing you are told as a responsibility. They come first. You're at the very bottom of the pile on it, all together. And there's a lot, as you said, well, there's 2,996 other companies then out there that are out there, all different sizes, who have received absolutely no help personally since this has gone on. Now, the company may have had, as you said, grants, discretionary, business rate relief, or whatever, but that doesn't help them in their own personal situation. And I think that, I know Tim's commenting, I know Tim makes this
Rishi being a
lot louder than I do, but on the same side, it's I just think it is a bit terrible that the entrepreneurs of the world have been sort of forgotten about. Well, the entrepreneurs in the UK have been forgotten about, who have started businesses, want to make a life for themselves, either want to grow a business and employ people and give them a great start and a stepping stone, or all different parts of career to go to it, and it has literally just been, you're done. That's it. Get over it, and that's it. But I think, Phil, and I think strongly on this is when you start to think of where your vote will go next. Now, I don't think anyone would have handled it any better, to be honest. From that, I think there's been a lot of mistakes made all the way through this. And in about 4 or 5 years' time, there'll be an inquiry. We'll find out. It'll all come out in the news. Nothing will be done. So it doesn't really matter on that point. And we have to make good out of a bad situation. But I do think for a party that's all about entrepreneurs and business and pushing forward, they've really dropped the ball on this 100%.
Yeah, I can imagine the outcome to the inquiry and the report saying it could have been done better and should have been done better. But that was 4 years ago and it's gone.
That doesn't put food on the table today. And a lot of people say I'm quite fortunate because I'm in property and we've not shut down on that. And funny enough, I've been out today doing, we're allowed to get out and travel for work. And there's a few things that have happened today that will come out over the next few weeks. But you just think, it's hard. Obviously I've got a great team, behind me. And it's hard, they're feeling it now, because they're feeling it from everybody else, because, they get to meet people and other people are like, oh my God, I can meet somebody, I can tell them everything. I want to talk about, lockdown and, I've done nothing all week and it's so hard. And they've turned into like agony aunts and uncles in a way, to have this, and it's mentally draining on staff as well. On a development point, look, you've got, if you look at a developer point, everyone goes, every developer's rich. Look, developers take a long time before they get their money on their property. It takes years before it comes through because there's so much that they plow into it on the early stages. And you can have houses at the moment where you'll have sparkies in, or electricians, if you don't know what a sparky is, and then you'll go, right, we've got something coming up. We need the painters in at the same time. One will be downstairs, one will be upstairs. All the windows will be open, so like the new advert, open the window, COVID will disappear because it understands the window's open. And then you'll have firms going, no, we're not allowed because we've been told we can't do that for insurance or legalities or whatever. What that means then to a developer is delays. Or extra money to be paid out. But it doesn't mean the bank wants to give you the money, who's obviously giving you the money to, to build the site out. And that's where, anxiety can kick in, stress kicks in, and a lot of other things. And that's just on a property developer point. There's hundreds of other different companies and industries that will be going through very similar at the moment. And I just think this is one thing that I thought it's been forgotten about. It was a great headline. We're going to extend the self-employed. And as soon as I heard it, I tweeted out and I said, well, not everyone who's self-employed benefits from that headline. The devil's always in the detail, as we know. But then again, look at it. It's all kicked off today because the NHS has had a 1% increase and the unions are kicking off. It's not 12.5%. And I'm from an NHS family background, so it's very, strong in my mind about it. But I'm like, but I do look at the rest of the public sector's not getting a pay rise at the moment. Yes, we've gone through a pandemic. We come out of this year. What happens in 2 years if we have another one? And you want 12.5%? What do we do? Another 12.5%?
Oh.
This is a fine line from this, which, I'm quite, vocal on this point. And I'm just like, but I remember what my mum and dad always said to me. They never went into it for money. They went into it because they wanted to help people.
I
think there's a difference, because if you did 12.5% now, and in 2 years another 12.5, then another 12.5, then where does this stop? I think unions have to wake up a little bit and start to realise that there's a bigger picture here than just people's pay packets.
No, I'm gonna. They always say one of the biggest reasons why somebody stays in a company is because of their enjoyment of the job, but there's a fine line. And I personally believe that people in the NHS, nurses, doctors in particular, those people on the front line do not get paid enough. Okay, it might change when we get to surgeons.
I agree they don't get paid enough. I do think that we're in a pandemic, and I just need to clarify something for you here, because this is where I get annoyed with you, Philip. The NHS, for doctors, it's not a company like we're talking about. It's a public service.
It is a public service, but a public service does not mean that they shouldn't get paid accordingly. Just because it's called public service doesn't mean they're doing us all a favour. They're actually still doing it as a living to try and keep our public services in order and running smoothly. And that's really important, because I don't think they're paid enough. The same as police officers now, what they have to
do. Fire people, care workers, we could go on with a big list that are not paid enough.
There is a big list.
On a flip side, Phil, because I know where you go on this, so I'm going to interrupt you and go on this. So how, if you think about everyone who's been at home, so we get that, the front line have done an amazing work. Now, you all know I'm a big supporter of this, because you think I plan all this stuff. Because today, actually, something's been happening like this. There's a reason why you know about this, so I'm a big supporter on it. But how have we all survived at home? What have we had to rely on at home at the moment?
Hope.
Well, apart from that, and alcohol. What else? How do we get it? What else have we relied on at the moment? What's the one? If you sat at home and you want something, what are we relying on?
Delivery service.
Yeah. Now, delivery services are all owned by private companies in a way now, but none of them are getting huge pay rises, and they're working 14, 16 hours a day to keep like us three, for example, just sane. And I think we've got to look at this very carefully. That is 1% enough? Probably not. Is 12.5% over the top? Yes, it probably is. But you have to have sensible conversations on this. And this is a headline at the moment that will do more damage than good if it's not careful.
Let me ask you one question.
Yeah.
And your answer will say it all. Let me ask you one question. Sorry, Jazz. We're off on a moment. We don't have them that often, but we're off on a moment.
This is raw. This is what happens.
Would you go and work frontline as a nurse with all the COVID patients coming in with a face mask? I witnessed this firsthand for 3 days at the beginning of January. That face masks on, all the surgical equipment they have to wear, working 12 hours non-stop without a break. Some are doing 6 and 7 days a week to support their colleagues. They won't have a break because their colleagues haven't had a break. They don't want to break the chain for £26,000 or £28,000 a year.
If I wanted to do that job, and because being like a teacher, for example, I'm doing it because that's the job I wanted to do, then the answer is yes.
But do you think that they should be paid that low wage?
Yes. No, I think they should be paid more, without a shadow of a doubt. I think we're one of the lowest countries in what we do pay. But if I've gone into that profession because that's what I want to do, this has not become a pay argument. It's because I want to help people and get the better of good. Now, I know my parents watch this show, and there's a difference. So one person on this has been through the Strangeway riot and was also involved when the Arndale bombing went off. There was never an argument about getting pay rises straight after that, and people were losing their lives left, right, and centre. The job was the job. Now, again, I agree they should be paid a lot more money. I think the unions here, it's not the frontline workers I'm having to go with. I think the unions are trying to politicise this at the moment and have gone over the top. And the problem you've got is the people that will get affected, Phil, are the frontline workers, because people will fall out of love with the unions who could do the damage on this. Just be a bit more sensible is what I'm saying. You can't go from 1 to 12.5%. That's just ridiculous.
I completely agree, but 1% is an absolute piss take.
Well, I didn't say it wasn't. What I did say is it's between 1 and 12.5, and other public services getting it. What I'm saying is when the unions are going 12.5 or we're going to go on strike, you're going to see it again, where people will turn their backs, and it's very difficult and dangerous grounds to go here.
Jazz, what were you going to say?
Well, today, just in the news, they were doing their maths on it, and they said to somebody like a new entry, a nurse who's just started and been in there for a year and a bit, to somebody like a nurse, it's probably going to come up to about £3.50. That's what the 1% is. £3.50 a week is what that 1% is for that person. Now, after what, especially with the pandemic and everything that's happened, are we saying that they should be getting that £3.50 a week is what they deserve? And when you put it into perspective, you kind of go, okay. However, I get where I think everyone's entitled to their opinion. It's a debate we can do forever. That can go on forever.
Yeah.
But in answer to a point that you raised earlier on about a sector, and you're right, we've had delivery drivers that we rely on, postmen who still had to go and do the work. We had shopkeepers still keeping the shops open, the supermarket staff that go out and do all of this. And we need that in society to keep ticking over. If everything came and shut down in one go, then it wouldn't flow. We wouldn't be able to work. You know, and it's the same as every sector. For example, the event sector, for not being recognised in Rishi's
yes, yeah,
in his budget, for example, or actually not being recognised full stop. What they don't understand is it's not people like me that's affected. Yes, it is. It's not just me. It's all my suppliers. It's my publishing companies that I rely on for my printing of my publications, for all my stuff that I need. But not just that, it's lots of different companies out there. The companies that supply me drinks for my event, the company that comes in and makes things look good, the production companies. All these companies are affected. It's a domino effect. We're not just talking about one sector as a whole. And it's the same as the NHS, as we're discussing. It's not just the NHS, it's everyone else that makes the NHS.
It is. Just, you're totally right. And I think this is one of the key things that I get really passionate and angry about in different ways, because I think as a society, the UK, we're very critical on all this. And we will always go, everyone needs paid more, without a shadow of a doubt. But when it comes to a tax rise, we're the exact opposite. And we go, we don't want to pay any more taxes though. But the money's got to come from somewhere to pay for these services. And it's interesting because in the property world, you know, we talk about our fees. And yeah, look, it's not enough. If someone's saving someone's life to sell property, it's nowhere near. It's never going to be the same. It never will be. So don't get me wrong here. But it's interesting because in our property world, you know, people will complain about someone charging 1.5%. We're one of the lowest in the world commissions to sell a house in the world at 1.5%. But people will expect us to jump through hoops for them. And it's very difficult. And we do that as a company. But we have rising costs constantly. But now we have people racing to the bottom on their fees. And it's very difficult because you think, do you have to go down or do you go up? And you have that argument. And I think you know, we talk about COVID as being the great reset. And I don't believe any of that conspiracy theories. But I do think that this might make people look at the world, or look at the UK more importantly, very differently, and just go, you know what? We do need to pay more for goods. We do need to pay for more things. We might need to be taxed more. And on that flip side, then everyone else can be paid more that should be paid more. Like we said, frontline medical staff, firefighters, police, the list, you know, teachers, the list could go on. But as a society, we have to be prepared to also increase ourselves. So something, you know, it's something needs to give. It's a bit like the budget we mentioned, you know, when property was great, this and you know. One thing was my headlines that went out in the media was actually, it wasn't a great budget for property. It looked amazing. Headlines are great. First time buyers, the estate agency, but they missed one thing. They never addressed the supply. So Boris, months and months ago, you know, his headline was build, address the supply. It'll lower the prices because there's more supply coming out. Everyone can get on the property ladder. It'll work. That's all been dropped. It's all sort of been forgotten about. And all of a sudden, you've got 95% mortgages, stamp duty extended. So it's all, everyone's like, great. But what do you think is going to happen to the price? It's just going to go up because there's a lack of supply and the demand is up here.
Yes,
so all of a sudden we're going to see. And the problem is, we could be having this conversation exactly in a year's time, and we'd be having the same conversation over this. And I think that's where I'm coming from on this. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I'm just thinking we need a balance. And I think unions need to balance themselves correct, that if they go too greedy, they will lose the public support very quickly. At the moment, the public's fully behind everybody. But if all of a sudden you take it, in other words, you try and take the piss, it will change it. And I think we've just got to be very, you know, careful here. Moving forward, the economy is very fragile, and like it or not, and I get shot down a lot of the times for saying this, we live in a capitalist world. It doesn't matter if you agree or not, our world works on money, unfortunately, and that's the way it will always work on, and we just need to balance things out, if it's right or wrong, in trying to... I think the NHS is going to get ready for a big change altogether, for better or for worse, I don't know. But I do think this will set the change. It's which government wants to do it, because who wants to lose the votes when they do it? This is why it's political, and I disagree when it goes political, and that's my argument.
I guess my only answer to that, just looking at it from a balanced perspective, is I was always taught every man is worth their salt. Phrase that means woman as well. But every man is worth their salt, and they should be paid what they are worth. And I guess if the inflation for the period was 2.9% on pay, and you only get a 1% pay rise, then you're not even being given the pay rise that goes with inflation, and that's just fairness. So. I guess
rail fares have gone up more than inflation than what the NHS have been told to get in a pay rise. That's completely wrong. How can you get a pay rise?
I was going into an industry that was government backed, and I thought it was going to pay me fairly each year because it is government backed, it's public service, and it didn't go up fairly. Then I think I would have a query that, and I think that's what the unions are querying. I think they're just trying to play.
What I would like to see now on a business point, because I think for events, I think for education, hospital, every industry, we want to see big investment across the whole of the country, not just your Crossrails in London. Yes, we've heard about these Freeport, but we need now to see big spending. It's one thing I do agree with Labour's policies. It's the cheapest time to borrow money. The government are constantly telling us, go and buy a house now. The rates are so cheap. It's the best time. We know as property professionals, it's one of the best times to buy a property for borrowing. This is the time you want to get your money in because it's cheap. So at the same time, the government should be off borrowing the money, get their bonds at the lowest rates possible, get the money into infrastructure projects, get people into more jobs, and that supply chain, which is huge, from the very, from that top end job, the supply chain that go, so you can have events in, construction, from, work, everything. It just goes absolutely huge. Everyone will benefit. We need to start spending, and we need to start seeing what the slogan was, wasn't it? A bit like "Build Britain Back" or whatever it was, "Make Britain Good Again" or whatever it was. We need to see it go. We're not seeing the spend. We're hearing the headlines.
Hang on, didn't it say spend 350 million a week on the NHS or something like that? Anyway, look, let's move forward. Let's finish on a really positive note because it's International Women's Day. Jazz is one of the international inspiring women for me, with what she's done so far, where she's going. Jazz, let's education awards moving forward into. Are we talking?
Can I just say, you both are real random and raw. You really are. We are going from budgets to literally saying no, NHS shouldn't get their pay rise, and literally then like, oh, education awards. Like, oh my god, it's my time again. Look, it is what it is. I mean, education is part of the public sector.
Yes.
I guess with the NHS, on the point that you're trying to make, James, with the NHS, with the police, for example, if you think about these professions, the risk that these individuals are taking is what should be taken into consideration. I am married to a police officer, and I can tell you, as his wife, I do worry, what he's going to go out and be doing. And when you hear of some things that he's done, you think, goodness gracious me, really?
Yes.
And there's one rule in our household: do not come back dead. Simple as.
Yeah.
And it's a real worry when the riots happened. He was one of the first ones there, and everything else. And you kind of hear what he's doing, and you just think to yourself, actually, your pay, and it's not about the pay. And you're right. It's about he enjoys his job. He loves what he does. However, the pay is not reflective in terms of what he does. So that, I guess, with the NHS, it's going to be highlighted a lot more at the moment because of the pandemic, because of how they've actually got us all through this. And God, I thank them for what they've done. But the reality of it is risking their lives every day, and it's a shame. It's a real shame. It takes this for the government to have even turned around and go, I'll tell you what, we're just going to get rid of the debt for the NHS.
I think they were damned if they did and damned if they don't with the headline. They would never have won with it.
I would never want to work in the government, just so,
everyone... I would for a day. Come on, you would for a day, just for a laugh. You'd love to sit there and go.
It's that age-old question, isn't it? Whose work is riskier? That working on the front line of NHS, or a police officer, or a footballer? Who deserves the bucks? Anyway, look, let's move on from there.
I tell you what, Phil, this is how real random and raw we are, Jess. Everyone knows I'm a huge football person. Okay. But you've hit a very valid point there, because we are creatures of habit. We don't like change, but we will go back to a change we're used to. So it'll happen very quickly, as we've had lots of discussions on this previously. And it'll be interesting because if football clubs increase their price for their season tickets, most people will not bat an eyelid for that. And they will go back to the stadiums. But if you said we need to increase your tax by 10, 15 quid, within the next 6 months, there'll be uproar in this country. That's just unfortunately the way it is. Do I agree with it? Absolutely not. And I just think there needs to be a change. Hopefully, unfortunately, with a lot of deaths, it shouldn't have happened, but this might just give that change that will help us if it happens again in the future.
Fingers crossed.
One would hope so. One would hope so.
Fingers crossed.
So, Jazz, let's finish off on Education Awards 2021, 2022.
Well, we can't go back.
When are you looking? Well, look, we're in 2021. Anything planned for this year?
Yes, so the awards are taking place this year. They're going virtual. Dates to be announced soon.
Fantastic.
Virtual, only because from the feedback that I've got from, following the guidelines, from all the guidelines that are there, it doesn't look like events will be opening up as soon for 500 people indoors or plus. So it's actually better for me to actually have the awards virtually this year. But also as well, I did a bit of research and I kind of did a few surveys, and a lot of as much as we are all desperate to get back out and can't wait to get back networking and getting into events, some people's confidence is not quite there either. So everyone's still going to be a little bit wary. And when anybody comes to my awards, and James and Phil, this, I like people to be relaxed and enjoy the event.
Yes.
I'd much rather have everybody come along, attend the event, and just really be relaxed and enjoying it. So that's the decision that's been made this year for me. Next year, bigger and better. We are going to Manchester as well the following year, so they'll be happening for the first time there. My awards are regional, but they take place in every region around the nation. So we want to look for homegrown talent. We want to look at what amazing things each region is doing as opposed to just nationwide. And the difference with these awards is also every winner from these awards, they get entered into the Pearson Awards, which is the teaching awards. Place in London, so you get to go there. So you on a national scale, you would be also marketed.
That's brilliant. That's a new partnership, is it, Jazz?
It's been for a year. It has
fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic, yeah.
So if people want to find out more about the awards, where can they go to? On website or social media?
Yeah, I think you've got it here, haven't you? I can see it kind of going underneath.
There it is.
I'm well prepared this week, Phil. Don't you?
Well done, James. Well done.
Don't worry, Phil. I'll take over. Yes, everybody, Education Awards right here below. Just contact me, Jazz Roadhouse. One woman banned me, but next year we'll have more people.
Jazz, I just want to ask you, obviously we're talking International Women's Day on Monday. If you could choose an inspirational woman, somebody that you would look up to or you're proud of or you're admired by what she's done, who would you choose?
That's a difficult question. It really is. I get inspired by so many people. Absolutely, so many people. My mum, for example, she's always going to be on the top no matter what. She's brought me up. She is always kind of, she's given me that courage to be the person to kind of go out and ask and do whatever you want. Just try to break that mold. And I saw my mum do that, coming from a very traditionally Punjabi background.
Yes.
Culturally, where studying wasn't really you're going to study, you're going to go and do the traditional route, which is the GCSEs, A levels, and then do a degree, and guess what, then you'll be a better prospect for marriage. She broke that mold, and unfortunately we laugh about it, but it actually really happened.
Yeah,
still very existent, as much as we want to say it's not. It very much is in some cultures. We're talking different things now.
But you went for the man in uniform.
I did. Well,
no cliche there, is there?
But my mum is always going to be my inspiration in my life for everything I do.
Beautiful.
I have to say, here in the Midlands, there's so many inspiring women in business, in education. I've met some amazing teachers that are such an inspiration.
Yes.
With what they do and the reason why they enter the roles they do. And it's not for the money. It is for the love of the job. But then that, you know, another debate will be sparked, so I won't go into it too much now. But there's some inspirational people out there, seriously. We had a winner, a Lifetime Achievement winner, Margaret Scott, who single-handedly set up the first ever autistic school in the Midlands, believe it or not.
Wow.
And she was going to go and retire, end of job, everything else, and she just didn't realise she was the first woman to ever done that. So had these awards not happened, yes, we would not have known her. Nobody would have picked up on the fact that that was the first ever autistic school that was set up. Because we still do research. So everybody, when they put their nominations in, we still research to find out actually what they're saying. Is it true? So we ask for evidence to back it up. So it's not just that whatever you say is what we're going to just take as hearsay and take as part of the awards. But there's so many inspiring women, honestly. And Georgie Moseley, I'm doing a series of inspirational women's shows myself on Solihull Radio, and I just spoke to Georgie Moseley on a Tuesday on the Talking Business show. And oh my God, what an inspirational woman she is. I mean, to have lost Harry at the age of 12 to an inoperable brain tumor.
Yeah.
As a mum myself, honestly, to think for a second, my son not being here, it kills me. I mean, I lost my son in Sainsbury's for 2 seconds once when he was 3.
Yeah.
And, oh my God, I died.
Well, she set up the amazing fundraiser, Help Harry, Help Others.
Absolutely. So she then, I mean, he set this legacy up himself. I mean, in the sense of he raised £1.2 million.
Incredible lad. Yeah.
And they were making these little bracelets with beads, and he sold them. And the reason for him doing it was because he didn't want anybody else going through what he went through. He wanted to bring a bit of light into their life. And when he passed away, she carried that legacy on, and she set up and registered Help Harry, Help Others. And what she does is amazing. I mean, this woman would skydive, jump from whatever to raise funds, and she's raised so many millions, and she's still going. So what an inspiration. I mean, these people need to be talked about.
It is, Jess. And I would just like to say as well, because that story touched us a lot when we saw that. And, you know, we saw little Harry, you know, making the bands in hospital and everything as well. But obviously Harry would have been 21 last week. Yeah. And I think what a great thing that they did as a charity, they joined forces with another charity locally in Birmingham, and they did Challenge 21, and that really touched me because I thought I've said this for a while now. Charities collaborating together will be stronger going forward now after this.
Yes.
And I think that, you know, a lot of charities have been actually one of the people that we never talk about, because we go, well, charities have done well. Charities have actually been destroyed as well through this, because, you know, people haven't, you know, they give money early days. Then obviously it stopped and it went quieter and quieter. And I just think when you see a charity collaborate with another, I think that's just pure strength there alone to know that it's always about the people that are worse off than yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And the word that, you know, collaboration.
Yeah.
Is the word. And I think now collaboration is what's going to help us all get out of it, all working together. Now, charities have been affected, businesses have been affected, but if we all work together to get out of this, it can only get better and stronger. We are a nation of givers. We really are. I mean, look at Captain Sir Tom Moore and what he did in terms of raising money for the NHS and how much he raised. And people were inspired by what he was doing, and they're doing their own versions of what he did.
Yes.
And gave so much. I mean, he raised a phenomenal amount of money for charity, for the NHS. Now, that's inspiration right there. You know, if we all had a little bit of that in us, it'd be amazing. But we live in a society where we are human, and we go back. Once things settle, we forget. And then we tend to go back and slip into our own ways. Whole thing about hashtag be kind, you know, everybody's mental health is important and everything else. We talk about it. And my big bugbear is, why do we talk about it why should we talk about it when a famous person or somebody really well known has unfortunately taken their life because of it?
Yeah.
There's so many
totally agree.
people who are affected by this. In fact, we should be talking about it all the time, a lot more, and encouraging people to talk about it more. But collaboratively, we can all, if we work together, make this better. And that's the word, I think, you know, really moving forward, collaboration.
Yeah.
Jazz, I've got to say it's been fantastic to have you with James Forrester and I for Real, Random and Raw. Inspirational lady that built the Education Awards, the Education Expo, and also an esteemed radio presenter. Jazz said to me earlier, she went, it says in the advert, esteemed radio presenter. I really love that.
No,
I've never been called an esteemed radio presenter.
I told you to literally come and tell the truth. I said you need to pipe down a little bit.
Yeah. They'll be expecting too much.
Well, I think Phil's been quite sexist because you've not asked me who my inspirational woman is. Just because I'm a guy, we can have inspiration and look at women as well.
Yeah, I'm almost scared to answer it because I know if I ask you, it'll come back on me. James, who's your inspirational woman?
So it's very
not including your mom.
So that's difficult because I'm a Geordie, and if you had to go in order, then Mum always goes number one. I have three actually. I always have to say my other half because she can hear me through that wall.
Yes.
And she is a teacher, and it is weird because I probably don't give her enough praise. To be honest, because I do see the heartache, and I hear the stories. That they go through in the school and everything. As a governor, I hear them. I'm not going to obviously, for confidentiality, put them on here, even though it's that raw. I'm not that. I am a lot more professional than sometimes I am. Probably it would be my daughter, because she could homeschool me at the moment. She's academically brilliant, even I am. And I just think I'm very proud the way she's handled this. That there's a lot of kids have gone to the park, and things like this, and and she's just worked all the way through. She's in a final year of her exams, and I think in the last year, I've seen my baby girl sort of turn into a young woman, and that is a great inspirational to me. And obviously, in a few years, I'll sort of lose her because she'll go off to experience her life herself. And third, I think has to be J.K. Rowling. Even though I don't read the books, but she did her first manuscript on a typewriter, and most people don't even know what one of those is these days. So I think, and she got knocked back by everybody, and she kept on going. And I think that's the key for me. You got to try again, and that's the main thing for me in life.
Absolutely, and I totally agree with you. And I think one thing that we do need to encourage our youth of today is to talk about things, but also as well, encourage them not to be so disheartened if they failed at anything. It's so important to fail, and it's so important to accept failure as a whole, because that's what develops you and makes you get better at what you're doing. Could you imagine being perfect and never be able? You can't.
And I'm not going to pinpoint a particular inspirational woman, because I think it's a tough life anyway for a lot of people. Women were always classed for many years as the second sex, not the equal, for pay and all sorts of other things over the decades. And I think, everybody is equal, no matter of sex or race or religion or anything else. So I think any woman that can stand in their power, define themselves, overcome challenges, be proud of who they are, and most importantly, know who they are inside and be able to sell that out, gets my credit, because life isn't easy for any of us, and anybody who can face their fears, their challenges, as said, and just literally go for it deserves to get support, guidance, and any help that they can, and deserves the recognition. So mine goes to all women on this inspirational Women's Day.
The very political Phil Oldershaw. Here we
Jazz Rahal, founder of Education Awards, Education Expo, and esteemed radio presenter. Thank you very much for joining us. Anything you want to say before we
wrap up?
No, thank you so much. Thank you to everybody for listening in, for tuning, watching. I keep saying listening, it's the radio face. For watching. Thank you for your support, and thank you to Phil, and thank you to James for inviting me on this. It's been extremely real, random, and raw. It really has.
Our pleasure.
Thank you, my lovely James.
So now.
Well, we're obviously going to follow on the international women's trend for next week with our next guest for next week.
Who's our guest, James?
More organised this week. So we have the lovely Eleni from events manager at Geno's and entrepreneur fitness guru. coming on next week. And yeah, looking forward to. I think Eleni's been a great inspiration, and starting up a business as well as doing another one. And I think it'll be as well as being events on Gino's. I think it'll be absolutely fantastic.
I've just got to say, I haven't seen Eleni for well over a year. She looks amazing. Is that a recent picture?
Yeah, that was sent to me today, so I can announce that she will be on the show for next week. I haven't just picked it out, by the way. Everyone's probably thinking I've just gone and
of all the pictures.
Sent me that.
No, she looks amazing, and fair play to her. I'm looking forward to having a chat with her next week as well, and that's significant. That's what I should have probably done during lockdown: hit the gym instead of the wine.
Phil, I don't want to see photos. I don't want to see photos of you in shorts, mate. Please.
That's what my other half says.
I just say International Women's Day on Monday. I mean, the whole theme for it is choose to challenge.
Yeah.
And I think it's very fitting considering we've been through such a challenging time. And
amazing.
I think it's important for anybody, not just women, to challenge. Choose to challenge and actually call things out, say things when they're not right, and say, right, okay, why is this happening, or why are women unrepresented in whatever? So we do need to actually come together and everybody pull together. As much as it is International Women's Day, it's the responsibility of all of us, male and female. I
agree, and actually, I'm glad you said that, because James and I both have wanted to get involved in the campaign for International Women's Day. And it's been a joy to. We had our photos taken as well today. And it is a joy to get involved. And I think more people, whether it's BLM, whether it's International Women's Day, more people should get involved. You don't just have to be of that race, of that sex. It's about equality and all of us coming together to empower each other and the principles that we are trying to get the message out there for. So I'm really pleased you said that, Jazz, because it's important that we come together and connect collectively to support each other. Yeah. Well, look, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in once more to our Friday Real, Random and Raw. Next week, we'll have Eleni here from Gino De Campo's and her brand new business, and we'll learn all about that next week. And we're calling that our sandwich in between International Women's Day, which takes place this Monday. So please make sure you join us next week. Thank you to the lovely Ninder Johal for joining us this evening, and also my co-host, the lovely James Forrester from Barrows and Forrester, and from me, Phil Oldershaw. Good night and enjoy your weekend.
God bless everyone.